The history of leadership, looking back through history, we see that as some individuals developed more intelligence than others, they stood out from the crowd and became leaders. Their leadership was gained and secured through demonstration of physical prowess. The strongest and cleverest of the tribe became the leader. In this way, different clans developed. Gradually, to become stronger in order to accomplish common purposes, several clans united under one leader. Those leaders became kings, elected according to their demonstration of physical power and intelligence. But some of them abused their position and became tyrants. They further established that their descendants were to be the successors to the crown. The right to rule by virtue of birth, rather than capacity, vitiated this form of leadership. The evil crept in because even if the kingly offspring was physically, mentally, or otherwise unqualified, he nevertheless inherited and usually insisted on exercising the right to rule. In some cases, incompetent heirs were manipulated by scheming ministers in their service. So we see that the system based on inheritance was defective. Some nations eventually became weary of this kind of tyranny and rebelled against their rulers. Many kings were slain and others dethroned. Then came the idea of a republic. Countries such as France and America chose to have presidents elected by the people. George Washington qualified himself for this position by all he did to help bring freedom to this land. He loved this country and had its highest interest at heart. He was a real president. Under his able leadership, this great land took its first important steps as a new nation. Lincoln, too, was an exceptional leader. But what crept in to obstruct the perfect ideal of government of the people, by the people, and for the people? Though presidents are elected by the citizens' vote, the system is flawed by graft and other inequities. Often, the best talker gets elected. We all know how people love to eulogize their own good qualities. Such a person can also talk against others for hours and never think of the time, but he will not talk about his own faults and doesn't like to be reminded of them. Those who feel qualified to castigate others for their failings should be willing to stand up and confess their own shortcomings too. But politicians know they won't get elected that way, so sometimes they get the vote simply because of their shrewdness in putting themselves over through their speeches. Then, after they get to the top, they do just as they please, in spite of all their promises to the people. Voters don't really know a candidate. Usually they are not in a position to make a personal judgment of his character. They know only what they read or hear about him. If he is said to be capable and a nice person, they feel inclined to vote for him. But where is the ground for judgment? Where is the standard of truth with which to measure each politician? None has been established. Thus, the masses too often are swayed by propaganda and sentiment, without really knowing what is going on. Even an unworthy candidate can get votes if he has the money for a good publicity program. But it is wrong to advertise how good he is if he hasn't the qualities to back it up. The system of voting for candidates is spoiled when money rather than merit can make the difference in getting someone elected president, and politicians, unfortunately, have a reputation for seeking out the moneyed people for help. Worthy candidates without such contacts may remain too little known to attract the voters. Of course, to be wealthy is not necessarily to be involved in influencing elections. I have always admired Henry Ford because he has done much good with his money for worthwhile causes in this country and throughout the world as well. Proven merit through good works should be one of the criteria for the election of leaders. To a large degree, voters are dependent on, and hence controlled by, what is printed in the newspapers. But I think people are getting away from that kind of influence. It used to be a common attitude in India that if someone said, "I read it in the paper," people automatically took it for granted that it must be false. Newspapers are often biased, and this makes people skeptical. Truth and sympathetic justice, not expediency and exploitation, will restore integrity to news reporting and reestablish people's faith. So we find that though democracy is the best ideal, the present system of voting is extremely inefficient because the decision too often has to be made on what the candidate says about himself or against others who are running on the ticket. Too little attention is paid to the real character of the candidates. If only saints and others who are truly capable of analyzing character went to vote for our leaders, we would be assured of a good president in the White House. We would always have worthy ones to guide us. A truly great president is one who looks to the good of the nation first and includes in that the well-being of the whole world. So because of the discrepancies in the voting system, we get some good presidents and some bad ones. Still, this democratic system is certainly far better than any other present-day alternatives. Inept kings and those who rule by force cannot be demoted without violence. But the people can lawfully replace presidents who prove unworthy. Now we come to the modern age form of dictatorship. Dictators are a classic example of politicians who make promises and then break them after they get in office. Dictators usually start out with a desire to help their people, but while they may be loyal to their own country, their self-interest makes them very disloyal to all other nations. Through jealousy and overzealousness, they bring trouble to the whole world as they rise to power. When they get to the top, they begin to rule by force to prevent anyone else from taking their position. Right or wrong, their word is law. This is the flaw of dictatorships. In the beginning, the dictator gains power by doing some good for his people. He stirs their faith in him because he rules by merit. But when he gets to the top, he rules by force.